Fire away.
I appreciate your what you're doing with Representative Thomas going to the state trying to get clarification on what the Budget Commission, what the role is of the Budget Commission. But as we move forward in trying to get this constitutional amendment for the elimination of the property taxes, I've come to realize it really doesn't matter from the revenue standpoint what we do. If we eliminate the property tax and move it into an income and or a sales tax, unless there is something done on the expense or the expenditure side, nothing will change. And the schools and all of the taxing authorities will continue to expand as I see as what they have done. And I'm saying, well, who controls that? And you have mentioned to me before that you don't believe that the Budget Commission will be given the authority, as you say, to eliminate, buying more pencils or something like that. So I'm saying, well, who really is controlling that?
Your school board. They are the approvers of that budget for every single one.
Now, the problem with that, many of the school board members do not have the financial acumen to really address that. And what I see happening is that they are just going along with the administration and the chief financial officers. My standpoint, what I'm viewing it as, if we can move it away from property taxes to an income tax, people do not understand the property taxes. It's too complex. 40% of the people in Lake County don't even get their tax bill. They don't know what they're paying on their property taxes. They get an increase on their monthly payment from the bank, and the bank says, well, your taxes went up. So there's no awareness by the people on the property taxes. However, if the school, I know the schools can use the income tax as a means of generating income. There are already certain school districts that are doing that in the state. If it is a move from property tax to income tax, people are going to see it in their weekly pay stub, and then maybe, just maybe, they can do something about it. What I'm saying is, it's we the people that have to do something about this increased expenditures.
I think it's really not the school board, it's the taxpayers voting on the levies. That's
they don't
ground
understand.
Level.
They don't understand.
Well, I think the information's out there, and they need to understand that's the ground. I mean, that's their responsibility as a taxpayer. They own the property. They need to inform themselves. The information's there, and they need to pursue it and vote. And that's level one. I mean, if you go to the school board, you're already beyond the responsible party, the taxpayer, the homeowner. So that's how I view it. They've got to be the one reached and informed.
Brian, you've raised a number of points in what you've just commented on.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I mean, you've unearthed a flaw within the Republican, lowercase r, form of governance when it comes to school boards, city councils, etc. Is how ultimately truly qualified are the people that are elected and sitting on it to be able to discern what's going on. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
That's always at issue, right? And the level and quality of those people varies all across the board, all across the state. You have some that are extremely engaged. You have council members that will show up, open their packet the night of the meeting as they're walking into the door, vote aye and go home, right? You've got different levels. To Mike's point, ultimately that's up to the voters to handle that. I mean, it is ultimately their responsibility. That is our Democratic, our lowercase r Republican form of governance. Ultimately falls to the people. So the only thing I would say about the property tax, and this is a discussion we've had a bunch now at the state level within our association, on one hand, I could tell you, that's great, get rid of it. You just eliminated 50% of the workload in my office. I mean,
Well, it would
what
be,
we have to do.
it would be a Doge for
I mean,
the,
absolutely,
for
but
those-
here's the thing, it's not a Doge unless you can answer, and the problem with Doge is, as a huge supporter of the concept of Doge, right? At some point, it's not, the problem with Doge is going to run into is that Congress isn't doing their job. You can stop contracts, stop spending, it's not turning off the spigot, which we just saw with the last continuing resolution, right?
I would concur.
And if Congress doesn't do their job to legislatively eliminate the Department of Education, to eliminate certain things, to cut spending, Doge does nothing ultimately. It does nothing. And so,
You could say that, if you're talking about the federal level, the same thing is true at the state level.
correct. Now, what I would say to you is, the one thing about local property taxes, for all the challenges, right, is that it does assure some level of local control. If you get rid of all local property taxes, okay, to fund fire, police, schools, libraries, you name it, everything that happens at the county level, you then have taken that control of those dollars and pushed it to Columbus. So now the Willoughby Police Department has to go begging to Columbus to make sure they've got the revenue they need. Now the Perry Village and the Perry Fire District needs to go begging to Columbus. So my point to you is that you do run the risk of empowering bureaucrats in Columbus 3 hours away to decide what level of funding should take place in your community.
I'm saying just send me a bill, just don't tie anything to my house. The house, the home ownership
Right,
is the basic foundation of our freedom and liberty.
I guess what I'm saying is that there has to be more than just eliminating. First of all, the first challenge on property taxes is how you making up the gap, right? And to what you said though, if you're going to do that, you're going to have to drastically restructure governance in this state. It's not just about eliminating property taxes.
This is not a quick fix.
You're going to have to come up with other tax revenues. What's that mean? 10% statewide sales tax? 12, 15, like I don't know what the number is, I haven't done the studies, right? So something will have to replace it. Additionally, you will have to fundamentally change the structure of local government in Ohio. I mean, massively. And so there's no point of a budget commission, first of all.
Well, what is the point of the Budget Commission now?
Well, you won't get an argument out of me on that, trying to fix that.
All right.
But you will absolutely eliminate any of that oversight you're seeking. Now it's all going to get pushed to the state. I don't know if we should trust the state with our best interests in Lake County. I mean, or Ashtabula County. I mean, I just testified against House Bill 15, right?
Yeah.
It's an energy bill, right? And I'm not going to comment on the energy side of that bill because I'm not an expert in those areas, right? So I don't know those things. But I do know, and they've recently re-amended the bill, and I'm going to have to go back and testify. They've gone ahead and they've redrafted the bill to eliminate the portion of making existing generation facilities tax exempt. So that's a victory.
Thank you
for what
that.
we started.
Yeah.
But now they want to make all new ones tax exempt. Okay? That will ultimately will only end up serving three things, and I don't know that they understand it. One, it will fatten the bottom line of Vistra and the power companies that want to build these things, because that's all it's going to do is add to their,
They're
bottom line.
not reducing rates on that.
No. So, if this is not stock advice, but go ahead and buy Vistra. Two, you are, Ohio taxpayers will now be subsidizing the electrical prices of people in the other 13 states. That's what we will be doing. So all the other ones within our grid, the other 12 states, They should all rejoice. Ohio taxpayers will now be subsidizing them. Congratulations. And third, ultimately what will happen is as these older plants are brought offline, because why would you want to keep the plants that are paying taxes? They will also be reducing the value of the personal property, the transmission lines and all the other stuff, which they are in the process of doing again this year. They've applied to the Department of Taxation for AEP, First Energy wants almost $100 million in reduction in value across the state on that. So what you're ultimately going to happen is who's picking up the slack on all that? Where is that all eventually going to go? You. Everyone on the other side of that camera. It's not going to happen overnight, but over the next 10 to 12 years, that's exactly what's going to happen. And the legislature's about to they're just about to do it again to the taxpayers and then not understand what they're doing in terms of why do property taxes keep going up? Well, you modified taxes again now on huge industrial generation facilities, and that tax burden shifted again to Bob and Betty Buckeye.
Thank you very much. I will make the people aware of that. I sincerely appreciate your transparency.
But I mean, look, your constitutional amendment, I mean, you're gonna have to dive in and figure out the other components, right? You just can't, it's not a matter of, hey, I'm getting diabetes, so because I'm overweight, and the answer isn't to cut off my arm. Well, you lost weight. Well, that didn't really solve my structural problem.
Understand.
See my point?
Yes. And good luck with losing weight.
I have another comment. Yeah,
I'm not diabetic, but again, I might be
agree a lot
getting
with what Chris said, but you know, the value of the property taxes paying for the local schools and everything else is there's so much more control, because if you shift that to W-2 income or earned income, you still have the same problem as you have a lot of people voting that right now that don't own a house. You have a lot of people voting that may not be employed and they have other sources of income that isn't taxed. So you still have the same problem there. If you do the statewide sales tax to support the schools, well then you completely lose control, because instead of dealing with each school board, which is local, now you gotta go to Columbus. So I think representation would be really stretched 3 hours away, so it'd be a lot harder to influence that, whereas local school boards, you have a lot of influence, you could go to those meetings and you could be heard. But I think it's a big issue, that the value of the property tax is that local district votes to increase, yes or no on the property tax, and and they control their district, their school district, and I think there's a lot of value to that. I think you lose complete control.
I'll just tell you that what the message we're speaking to a lot of groups throughout the state, and my parting comment to people is, if you keep voting for the property tax levies, you're going to be funding your own demise. That's what we tell them. So it's up to them. Thank you very much.
But I also want you to think about, when I talk about the structural, right? If you get rid of the property tax, okay? And I joked about this when I first answered, but you don't need an auditor and a treasurer anymore. You don't. Treasurer is collecting property taxes. Billing and collecting property taxes is their biggest task.
Well, do we need an auditor and a treasurer?
I don't know about that.
No, we don't. I would argue that we would not. You would have to get back to structurally changing government.
But look at the cost of savings on that at the state level.
I'm not opposed to it. I'm not
billions.
opposed to it. I'm just saying that's the kind of thing that you have to take into consideration.
Right, I understand.
You can't just say get rid of it now.
Would you agree that property tax is probably the most expensive tax to collect? When you consider at the
It
state
might
level
be. I don't know.
and all
Probably
88
is.
counties.
I don't know how efficient the state is on sales tax, et cetera. I don't know how that works.
Yeah, but what do you create if you eliminate this function locally? What do you create through the state? How much is that expense? Is that going to be 20 times the expense, because now you're dealing with a giant state? I don't know.
We just know what we've got right now is not working.
But anyway, I just wanted to point out that, like, to eliminate that, it has to come with a bunch of other reforms.
Yes.
You would have to say, well, we have to change, you know, the Constitution and things on elected positions. Like, you're gonna get rid of treasurers and auditors, and you're gonna replace it with a county fiscal officer. I mean, you're gonna have to do things, but those are structural flaws that have to come with it, because if you never address it.
We're trying to address that by trying to get meetings with state representatives. And we do have one coming up on April 1st. We've tried to reach out to local representatives, but they don't want to meet with us. So we're just going to call everybody out. We're not going to go away on this one, all right?
All right.
Appreciate it very much, everybody.
All right.
I really do. Thank you.